So over the course of my life, I've seen some pretty big beatdowns. I watched Ohio State as a college football fan demolish Wisconsin in the 2014 Big Ten championship game. As a teenager, I was on the end of some pretty bad beatings when my my stepdad decided he wanted to hit something. And then as a movie fan, I watched as Ivan Drago laid Apollo Creed out and literally put him in the ground. And none of those things compare to what I saw when I watched Kamala Harris spend 90 minutes beating the hell out of a weak, disgusting old man. That debate last night was hands down one of the best debates, if not the best debate I've ever seen in my entire life. I've watched a lot of debates going back to the Gore Bush debates in 2000. As much as I don't necessarily remember all of them because they were so long ago, and none of them really stood out as anything more than just like political theater, I've watched a lot of debates. And I wasn't sure what to expect going into this. Because my first thought was, okay, well, I expected that Joe Biden was going to like lay Trump out in June, and was sorely disappointed because Joe Biden just fell completely flat. So as excited as I was, and as much as I expected her to do a good job, I was still a little bit worried. And after the first couple of minutes, I was starting to get a little bit more relaxed. By about 30 minutes in, she was just smacking him around left and right, and there was nothing he could do about it. Now, if you sit there and you want to say, I don't know what you're talking about, Donald Trump won the debate, either you didn't watch it, especially not in good faith, or you were already on the Trump train, much the same as a lot of the people that the networks brought in after the debate was over to try and pretend like they were undecided voters. Okay? Because she put the wood to him. And I was very disheartened afterwards watching these people that were supposed to be undecided voters that said that they didn't know who they were voting for, or they were leaning one way or the other, but they weren't sure. And while some of them, after the debate, were like, yeah, Kamala did a great job, there were so many that were like, well, I wanted to hear more from her, and I don't know much about her. Go out. That is on you. There is a ton of information out there about Kamala Harris. There is, and if you don't know Donald Trump, you've just been not paying attention. You might have been in a coma for the last 9 years. Like, do your damn due diligence. Go out there and learn about the candidates. And there was those people that were convinced, and where you felt the debate ended up very heavily depended on where you were going into it. You know, if you went to, there was watch parties, right? And if you went to the watch party that the Republicans, that the Trump people were holding, every single person there was saying, Donald Trump won. Donald Trump kicked her ass. She lied nonstop, blah, blah, blah. And if you went to the watch parties that the Harris campaign or the Democrats were holding, it was the exact opposite. You know, Kamala Harris kicked his ass and she did this and that. So there was very much bias depending on which watch party you were talking to. But when these people are supposedly undecided voters, there was a clear-cut winner. I don't care. You can spin it however you want to spin it. But the fact of the matter, if you watch that debate, if you watch Donald Trump and his lies left and right, and being called out by the moderators, being called out by Kamala Harris, factual things that you can go look up for yourself. I implore you. Don't just take one of the other candidates' words for it. Do your own research. You will learn very quickly some of the highlights of the debate, some of the things that really got me going were things like she brought up crowd sizes, knowing that she could poke and prod him, and showing the world how easy it is to get under his skin. Because the minute she brings up crowd sizes in just a fleeting moment, telling people go to Donald Trump's rallies, see what happens there, see what he talks about. He doesn't talk about you, and his crowd starts leaving. And it immediately ticked him off to the point where when he was asked to respond about immigration, he had to go back and talk about how great his crowds are. They're the greatest crowds ever. She doesn't draw any crowds. That is not the mark of a president. That is not the mark of somebody that is fit for office. I don't care what your opinion on the matter is. That is a fact. You do not want somebody with the nuclear codes who is going to get riled every time somebody does something to get under their skin and piss them off. You just don't want it. That temperament does not work well. Then the next big thing that really got to me, that I thought, oh my God, what the hell is going on right now? He actually went after and started talking about the big thing lately, the big conspiracy theory is focused on Haitian immigrants in Springfield. And this whole thing about, there's immigrants eating dogs and cats. And he actually said that. Like, you don't understand the insanity. If you had told me 20 years ago, someday you'll be watching a presidential debate for the main presidential election, and one of the candidates is going to seriously bring up and say that immigrants are eating cats and dogs, eating house pets, I would have thought you were insane. There was no way that was going to happen. And yet he did it. And when it was pointed out to him that the city manager who was contacted for this said, no, this isn't a thing. This isn't happening. What was his response? Well, I saw it on TV. I saw it on television. You saw it on TV. If you are swayed by what you see on television over what a city manager is telling you, what the people in charge are telling you, you're an idiot. And you don't deserve to be anywhere near the nuclear codes. Again. It blew me away. And then the economy was a big one that came up. Because there was a lot of people that their perception of the economy is based off of what they've been told, and they've been told the economy is not great. And even if they're doing well, they think that somebody else is probably doing badly, and so the economy must be bad. And even though that's not factual, a lot of people, they don't understand the economy. They don't understand how the economy works. They don't understand inflation. They don't understand tariffs. Tariffs were brought up yet again because his plan is tariffs, which are a tax on imported goods that are paid by the company doing the importing. And that cost is passed along to consumers, meaning that the cost of goods goes up. And you could tell he had no clue what tariffs were. In his mind, tariffs are, we're gonna charge more for the companies that we're importing things from. That's not how any of this works. And it's very clear that he doesn't understand that. But even then, when they really start to drill down on the economy, she starts talking about her plans and what she wants to do and how she wants to make things better for first-time home buyers. She wants to build the middle class up better. One of his big hitting points, one of the things that he actually did something on or said something on that I think could be considered as an almost logical question to have is, well, why didn't you do any of this in the past 3 years? You've been in office as a vice president for three and a half years. Why didn't you do any of this? And I didn't, her response was okay. I didn't like it very well because I don't think it laid out the true depth of everything, at least not in a way that it should have been laid out. So for one thing, the things that she didn't say, she's been the vice president for the last 3.5 years. Okay. And while vice presidents, they can kind of have a say in the room, the president makes the final call. So anything that she has wanted to implement, anything she would have implemented, she is not in a position to do that as vice president. As president, with a House and Senate, she will be in a position to do a lot of these things. That being said, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, I'm going to use an analogy here. I'm going to try to make this analogy make sense. They inherited a house that was literally burning to the ground. And when they first got there, the first thing they had to do was put the fire out. And that took some time. You had to put it out. You had to make sure it was out and that it was going to stay out. And then you had to assess the damage. What is actually damaged and needs to be replaced? What can be repaired and what can be cleaned? And then they had to go about the trying to get those things done. And for the most part, they were able to get a lot of it done as far as they were able to, they wanted to build back better. They wanted to do an infrastructure, overhaul the infrastructure bill. The CHIPS Act Like these big things that have brought jobs back to the country have improved the economy to a point where after COVID, everybody was suffering. Everybody was struggling economically. The United States of America has had the best economic recovery in the world, to the point where inflation is back to where it was before COVID now. But it takes time to get there. And that's what people don't understand about the economy is all of these things that Kamala wants to do now were not possible before we got back to a standard, before we got back to the economy being in a decent place. And the reason why the economy was in a place that it was in was because Donald Trump botched the handling of COVID. He dropped the ball. Like, there's no other way to say it. Donald Trump stood up there and tried to pretend like it wasn't a thing, tried to play it down, said we should inject bleach into our bodies. You know, he wasn't prepared. He didn't know what the hell he was doing. And he spent the better part of the last year of his term lying about COVID, making things up, to the point where when after Ruth Bader Ginsburg died, when they got Amy Coney Barrett put into the Supreme Court and they had her little party in the Rose Garden, tons of people walked away, wound up testing positive for COVID. Like, because he was not taking precautions, and he was not, all he had to do as president, and all politicians had to do was set the example. If they would have stood up there and they would have said, hey, we all need to mask up, we all need to take this seriously, we need to take these precautions. If we would have actually taken 3 weeks, 4 weeks tops, where everybody stayed home, everybody, for the most part, kept to themselves, COVID goes away. And if we take precautions after that, and we get it takes time to develop a vaccine and that kind of thing. And to Trump's credit, they were able to develop a vaccine very quickly. They were able to lift restrictions that would normally be in place that would slow that process. But everything else he did drop the ball completely, and it screwed the economy over in a really bad way. So all of this stuff that he's trying to sit there in this debate, and he's trying to throw the stuff against the wall and hoping that it sticks, and none of it did. She wiped the floor with him. She made him look like a petulant child that he is. And I'm sorry, but if you're sitting there, if you want to sit there and try to say, no, she didn't look that good, or you're in denial. You've been on the Trump train since day one. Just come out and say it. Be honest with yourself. Be honest with everybody else around you that you're planning on voting for Donald Trump. Plain and simple. You know, you might like Donald Trump, but you got to be able to admit when he screwed up, when he didn't do so hot. You know, after the Biden debate, because I was looking forward to Biden hopefully beating the hell out of Trump, but that didn't happen. And I was one of those people who was like, hey, Biden, he's not looking very good. I fully supported that he needed to step down. He needed to step aside because as much as it sucks and as much good as he's done in the past 3.5 years as president, 90% of being president of the United States is a show. 90% of it is perception and what people think of you. And when you stand up on the debate stage and you look weak and tired and you can't string two sentences together, it's very clear that you are not in a position, at least outwardly, to most people, to run the country. Even if Joe Biden is actually cognitively there and able to do it, perception is 90% of the job. And it's the same thing with Donald Trump. Perception. If you watch that debate and you honestly look at that debate and you honestly judge it, count points. I've watched debates outside of just political debates where they actually have points and they actually, you have a winner and a loser based off of the points that you hit and all that kind of stuff. If you count points, she kicked his ass. Now, political debates, I don't like the political debates because I don't think that they're actual debates. They are first thing a television performance. That's what it is. It's how well can you stand up there and articulate your thoughts for 60 minutes, 90 minutes, whatever. And how many people can you get on your side? And when you look at the spin room, which is the room after the debate, the pundits, the news media, they're all in the spin room. They're trying to talk to surrogates for each campaign. And you look at the spin room, Donald Trump's surrogates, they didn't have shit. They were lost. Up to and including Tim Bulwark from the, damn it, I can't think of the thing he's on. But he talked to Lindsey Graham, who was like, yeah, that was a bad night. Trump had to go in and be a surrogate for himself because the surrogates didn't know what they were doing, because they had no leg to stand on. And Trump had to walk in and tell everybody how great he did and how wonderful. And then it wasn't fair because the moderators were against him, which, like, I'm sorry, but if people fact checking you and telling you that you're incorrect on something is being against you, then maybe you just shouldn't lie. Like, it's that simple. But I wanted to give my thoughts on the debate because I've seen a few other people reacting to it and talking about it, and nobody's really spoken for me and how I felt about it. So I wanted to put my thoughts out there and get this video out quick because it was something that it really struck me. And I've had, the time to think about it since then. I could have recorded this as soon as the debate ended, but I wanted to let it kind of percolate, and I wanted to hear some other opinions, and I wanted to kind of really focus on what I thought about it. Because at the end of the day, you shouldn't listen to anybody else's opinion, other than, it's good to gauge what other people are thinking, but you should not let that form your opinions. You should if you didn't watch the debate, go watch the damn thing. Like, that's simple. And like, Kamala Harris said during the debate, she encourages people to go to Trump rallies. You can watch Trump rallies. They are online. You can go to YouTube and watch his latest rally in full. And you can see how he rambles and how he's incoherent, how he can't keep a train of thought. How he doesn't focus on you, like she pointed out many times. She wants to focus on the people. She wants to focus on building the middle class, on doing the right thing. And Donald Trump doesn't want to do that. And you can see that in the way that he presents himself, not just in the debate, but in speeches at the convention and at rallies. Like, you can see that if you watch him speak. Watch him speak. Listen to her speak. Watch her speak. Go to their websites. See what their plans are. Do your own research, because as much as people like to say, well, I just don't know anything about her. If you don't know anything about her at this point, that's your own damn fault. And people will try to play it off as, well, it's a messaging thing and she needs to get the message out better. And yes, as a politician, part of your job is getting the message out. But as voters, our responsibility is to learn as much about the candidates as we can and form our own opinions based off of what the candidates are saying, what the candidates are doing, what they have done in the past, what their plans are. Because I'll tell you right now, Donald Trump doesn't have any plans. Donald Trump's plans are build a wall, take out anybody that even looks slightly Hispanic and throw them into Mexico in a bloody way. He said that. And put tariffs on everything because he doesn't understand how tariffs work. So I encourage you so much, go out there and do your own research. If you stuck around this long in the video, you're probably a pretty logical minded person. You're a pretty reasonable person. And chances are you're already voting for Kamala Harris. But in the event that you are hate watching and you're just angry and pissed off, first of all, thanks for watching the whole video. That helps. But second of all, go do your own research. Learn about these candidates. Because it's just like I talked a little bit in the podcast I did last week or week. Yeah, it was last week. Actually, yeah, I think that one did come out Friday. Anyway, with Christianity and reading the Bible, and reading the Bible is the number one way to become an atheist. When you start to really dig into these candidates and you start to really dig into what they're saying, and you learn a little bit of economics and you learn a little bit about foreign policy, you'll find out real fast Donald Trump ain't it. He doesn't have a clue. His goal is to stay out of jail. Kamala Harris, she's got a plan. She knows what she's doing. And I trust her to run the country a million times more than I would trust him to run the country. Not because she's a Democrat, but because she's actually articulated a plan that I can get behind, and he doesn't have a clue. So with that, I do want to thank you all for watching. Like I said, I just wanted to get my thoughts out. I wanted to really talk about this because it's important to me, and it's a big moment in history. And if you need to watch it, you need to keep up with this stuff. There is less than 60 days to go. I think it's 56 days now to go until the election, till November 5th. And you need to know, you need to be an informed voter. When you go to the polls, you need to know what each candidate stands for, not just at the presidential level, but at the local level as well. Know what your ballot initiatives are. Know what's on the ballot before you go to vote. Be an informed voter, because informed voters tend to lead to a better situation for the country as a whole. So thank you all for watching. Everybody have a great rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one.